Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time we're going to be exploring something I think is really interesting. It's the influence of the PayPal Mafia on the new Trump administration.
hmm
And, this is a group that is often associated with Silicon Valley and, all of those libertarian kind of roots.
Right.
And so to see them embedded in a traditionally conservative sphere of politics,
Right.
I don't know, there's some tension there, right?
Yeah. Well, I think it challenges our traditional assumptions, right, about the relationship between tech and politics.
Yeah.
We think about these figures and, we think disruption and innovation, and now they're really looking to disrupt the system that, in the past they really wanted to be separate from.
Yeah, you always hear those two things, right? It's
Yeah.
like those are the two spheres that are always clashing.
Yeah.
Silicon Valley versus, Washington.
Exactly.
So let's break it down for people who might not be as familiar with this term. Who is the PayPal Mafia, and why are they suddenly, in the political arena making waves?
So the term itself, it originated in a 2007 Fortune magazine article, and it was really describing this group of early PayPal founders and managers. They went on to achieve just incredible success in the tech world. We're
Right.
talking about Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, David Sachs. These are individuals who really shaped the landscape of e-commerce, social media, electric vehicles, space exploration, and now, potentially American governance.
Wow, that's a lot of different areas.
Yeah.
So, okay, clearly they're brilliant entrepreneurs. I mean, you can't take that away from them. But what connects them beyond just, that shared history at PayPal? And how did that specific experience shape their views when it comes to politics?
I think their shared experience building PayPal, during that dot-com boom really exposed them to what they perceived as like excessive government regulation, right? They really felt stifled by all the bureaucracy and that,
Yeah.
really solidified their libertarian views. The idea that government should just kind of stay out of things, particularly when it comes to technology and innovation. Right.
I see. So even though they've thrived in this system, they've always had this belief that less government is better government.
Right.
But, you think about somebody like Elon Musk and how much he's relying on government contracts.
Right.
How do you reconcile those two things?
I think it's a major point of contention, right?
Mhm.
These figures may espouse libertarian ideals, but they've also been very pragmatic in leveraging government support, for their ventures.
Right.
So, it raises these questions of, are they really seeking to like dismantle the system or just, kind of mold it in a way that benefits them?
It sounds like they want to take us back to that, that Wild West early internet days.
Yeah, kind of, less regulation, just freedom to innovate. And, the government kind of just takes this hands-off approach.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I see that.
Uh-huh.
So to understand that, how they're impacting things, let's look at each player and their contributions. And maybe we can start with Peter Thiel, because he's a very interesting guy. I mean, he's not just a PayPal co-founder. He was an early investor in Facebook.
Right.
He's the founder of Palantir Technologies. He's a venture capitalist with Founders Fund.
Exactly.
So, this guy,
He's everywhere.
he's everywhere. And of course, he was one of the very first people to very vocally support Trump. So that was kind of a bridge right between Silicon Valley and, more conservative politics. And,
Yeah.
you think about Palantir and that focus on data analytics and some of those government contracts.
Right.
It seems like he is deeply invested in trying to shape policy, especially when it comes to tech, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And I think, his philosophy could have some profound implications, particularly in, areas like artificial intelligence and data privacy. So, his libertarian leanings,
Yeah.
that could translate into less stringent regulations, when it comes to AI development, which obviously would, benefit Palantir. But also, we have to think about the ethical considerations there and the potential for misuse of these very powerful technologies.
It's a very good point. So you have, Thiel, who wanting to influence things in a way where less regulation is better when it comes to tech. But then you have Elon Musk, who is like everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's the head of Tesla SpaceX, now X, which is formerly Twitter. So he's got his hands in electric vehicles, space exploration, even social media.
Mhm.
And he's gotten billions of dollars in government contracts
Yeah.
for his companies.
Right.
So again, you have this weird tension.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's a fascinating case study. It's like, how do these libertarian ideals, coexist with needing and wanting government support?
Yeah. So specifically, what's he doing within the Trump administration? What are his big objectives?
Well, one of his major focuses is on government efficiency.
Yeah.
He was appointed co-leader of the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE,
Oh, wow.
which is, kind of ironic considering, his fondness for the Dogecoin cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
But he's co-leading that with Vic Ramaswamy, and he's pledged to cut $2 trillion from the federal budget.
$2 trillion.
Yeah.
I'm very skeptical that that's going to happen. I feel like
It's a big number.
yeah, it's a big number.
But it definitely, signals his commitment to shrinking, the size and scope of government.
Yeah, which of course aligns with those libertarian views. But
Right.
some would say this is just a way to, advance the interests of his companies.
Right.
That, maybe cut government spending on social programs, and then that frees up more money for investments in technologies that would benefit him, like renewable energy and space exploration.
Right. Yeah. So it's like, is this genuinely, libertarianism, or is it just a way to kind of, maneuver things in a way that benefits his business?
Right. So is it principle or is it strategy?
Exactly.
So we've got Thiel, we've got Musk, and then we have David Sachs, who brings a deep understanding of technology and finance. So he's kind of got both sides of the coin there.
He does. Yeah. And I think, that makes his current role, in the Trump administration all the more significant.
And you're talking about his role as like Trump's AI and crypto czar, right?
Exactly.
I mean, it sounds like a title from like a
That's a
sci-fi movie, but
it is, yeah. But he's really well positioned, to influence policy in these areas that are, rapidly changing all the time.
right. And so, it makes you wonder how his libertarian views are going to, shape how cryptocurrency is regulated.
Right.
I mean, are we going to see this push toward a more decentralized financial system, or is he going to prioritize, the interests of these institutions that have been around forever?
Yeah, it's a good question.
I
And
almost feel like knowing, the PayPal Mafia and how much they want to disrupt things,
right.
they're going to be pushing for, shaking things up a little bit.
Yeah, they've never been afraid to challenge the status quo, right?
Right, exactly. But, it also makes you wonder about data privacy and how his approach to AI is going to impact how our information is collected and stored and used.
That's a huge question, I think. And it's definitely going to lead to a lot of debate. I mean, on one hand, you could say less regulation is going to, create more innovation. And we'll see AI technologies, develop faster, but then, you have to worry about people's data being, breached or surveillance or, that information being misused.
So it's that classic dilemma that we always seem to run into, right?
Yeah. Okay.
How do we balance all of the potential amazing things that could happen
Right.
with protecting people,
Right. It's like this tightrope walk, and, these decisions that Sachs is making are going to affect everybody.
Right. And it's not even just about AI and crypto. I mean, if you look at everything that the PayPal Mafia is kind of pushing for, it seems like they all want to see less regulation when it comes to tech, more stuff that favors cryptocurrencies. They want to see a softer stance on antitrust issues. And obviously, those cuts to government spending, that's a big one.
Yeah, I mean, it's like they're trying to take us back to the early days of the internet, where there was so much growth and innovation, but also,
But no rules.
yeah, kind of a Wild West situation.
Do you think that that's something that could actually work, long term?
That's the big question, right? Can a group of, Silicon Valley libertarians actually reshape the government? Or will they have to, compromise what they believe in when they come up against the reality of politics?
It's like a big experiment that they're running.
Yes, yeah.
And it's going to change how the government and the tech industry relate to each other. But, these are advisors, right? They're not elected officials.
Right.
So how do you think people are going to perceive their influence?
I think it depends. I think some people are really going to welcome, their expertise and the fact that they think in new ways. But then other people are going to be suspicious, right? They're going to see it as, this small group of tech elites trying to control things.
It's a new kind of power dynamic, right?
It is.
Yeah.
Silicon Valley is going to Washington with a very specific set of things they want to accomplish. And so it makes you wonder, about accountability and transparency.
Yeah.
How do we know that what regular people want is being considered?
Yeah, and that's a really important point because these guys aren't, they're not held to the same standards as elected officials.
Right.
So, what they're doing might be, less out in the open, and it's harder for people to figure out what it all means.
Yeah, it's kind of scary to think that, this small group of people,
Right.
no matter how smart they are,
Right.
could have, this huge impact on the country. And they're basically operating outside of the normal system of checks and balances.
It really does make you rethink how power works in a democracy. And I think it just highlights how important it is for us to pay attention
Right.
and to really think critically about, what's happening. We have
Yeah.
to ask tough questions about, why they're doing this. And, are there conflicts of interest, and what are the long-term consequences of, tech and politics, being so closely linked?
It feels like we're at a turning point.
Yeah.
This whole thing with Silicon Valley and Washington, I mean, it could lead to amazing things.
Right.
But there's also a lot of risks.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they could help make the government more efficient, more innovative.
Right.
Streamline bureaucracy, help develop technologies that would benefit everybody. But their influence could also, lead to policies that really just help Silicon Valley.
Right. And not regular people.
Right. And that could make inequality even worse and maybe even, hurt our democracy.
It's a lot to think about, and it's clear that, the stakes are really high. What do you think is like the biggest thing we should be worried about?
I think the most important thing is figuring out how to balance the potential of technology with, the basic principles of a democracy.
Mhm.
How do we use all the innovation that Silicon Valley has to offer without, giving up transparency and accountability and making sure that everybody benefits?
That's a big question.
It is.
It's a lot to process.
It is. It's natural to feel kind of uneasy, because we've never been here before.
Right.
But we can't forget that, we as citizens, we have a role to play in all of this.
What do you mean by that? What can we actually do to make sure that things don't go in the wrong direction?
I think the first thing is just staying informed.
Okay.
We need to understand what's at stake. Why are these people doing this?
Right.
What could happen?
Yeah. So knowledge is power.
Exactly. And then we have to take action.
Okay. So how do we do that?
Well, we can start by demanding more transparency from the government and from the tech companies
Yeah.
that are influencing all these decisions we have, to hold our elected officials accountable for the choices they're making and who they're appointing as advisors.
So basically you're saying we need to be more active, more engaged,
Yeah.
more willing to challenge how things are and demand, a say in what the future looks like.
Exactly. We can't just sit back and watch this all happen.
Right.
We have to be informed, we have to be engaged, and we have to speak up about what we're worried about and what kind of policies we want to see.
So it's a call to action.
It is.
It's a reminder that we still have a voice,
Right.
even with all this, technology and these political forces kind of coming together.
Mm.
It really is. Yeah, it makes you realize that progress isn't always good.
Right.
We have to make sure that we're, creating the future that we want.
Exactly. And I think that's really what this deep dive, comes down to. We've talked about, where the PayPal Mafia came from, how they ended up with, so much power, and what that could mean for, policies in this country. But what does it mean for us, for, regular people?
Right. We could talk all day about ideology and, these big policy ideas.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's like, how is this actually going to affect my life?
Exactly. So let's think about some real world examples.
Mm.
Imagine a world where facial recognition technology is everywhere, and it's all powered by algorithms that, companies like Palantir developed.
Right.
I mean, that could help with security,
Sure.
but it also makes you worry about privacy and, the government using it in ways that they shouldn't.
It's like something out of, one of those sci-fi movies where everything goes wrong.
Yeah.
But, with somebody like Thiel pushing for less regulation of tech,
Right.
it could actually happen.
It could. And, what about a government that's really into cryptocurrency?
Right.
I mean, maybe that would lead to a financial system that isn't so centralized,
Right.
which could be a good thing. But then you have to think about, what that would do to the economy and, what if people lose all their money to scams?
Right. And then there's the whole thing with government spending.
Oh, yeah.
What if Musk actually manages to cut trillions of dollars from the budget?
Right. What happens to social programs?
Right. Healthcare, education.
All these things that people need.
So many things could be affected.
It really is a complicated situation, and it's hard to know exactly what's going to happen. But what's clear is that the decisions that are being made by, this administration, and especially the people from, the PayPal Mafia, are going to have a ripple effect.
Yeah, this isn't just about Silicon Valley or Washington.
Right.
This is about, all of us and the country as a whole.
Exactly. And that brings us to the most important question, knowing what we know about their past and, their belief that the government should stay out of things and the power that they have right now, what do you think is going to happen?
That's a big question. And I don't think there's an easy answer.
No.
I think we all need to be thinking about that and challenging what we think we know about, how technology is changing things and what power really means in, the 21st century.
Yeah, we're in uncharted territory here, and we're still trying to figure out where we're going. There's a lot of potential for things to go really well, but there's also a lot of uncertainty, and the choices that we make right now are going to determine what happens.
Well, this deep dive has definitely made me think differently about, you know, tech and politics and the future of the country.
I'm glad, and I really hope that everyone listening will keep learning about all of this and, talk to other people about it and think about the potential for things to go well, but also, all the risks that are involved.
Yeah, I think that's really important. So to everyone listening, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into, the PayPal Mafia and what they're doing in the Trump administration.
Yeah.
It's been really interesting to explore, how these guys are changing how our government works.
It has. And remember, the future isn't something that just happens to us.
Right.
We make it happen by the choices that we make and, what we do and how we deal with all the challenges and opportunities that are out there.
That's a great point. So until next time,
Yeah.
keep asking questions, keep learning, and keep diving deep.